jumping into the cons, look, low capital growth, and that's the supply risk that Jaryd talked about, right? Like it's just a simple demand metrics. So if you've got heaps of land, then people have options. And if you're on the outskirts of a town, which generally house and land package developments are, you go that next estate that's going to be built is going to be built next to yours, just a little bit further out, and a little bit further out. It's the urban sprawl effect.
Yeah.
So when you're going to sell that property, especially in the first few 10 years, people they'll compare and go, well, I can buy that house which is built in 2000 and 5 years ago for $800,000, or I can go and buy the land 2 minutes down the road and build my dream house for the same price, or maybe an extra 20 grand or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, or even maybe a little bit less depending on where it is. And then they start to look at that. So that's the psychology you're competing against, and that's the supply issue. So I don't like to buy on the outskirts of town because you've got that risk. Just get on a Google map, search the location, zoom out, and hit a satellite view.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, that's all farmland. Guess what happens to farmland over time?
Gets developed, but very, very slowly.
Yeah. The next thing is amenities, right?
So that's the crazy thing that I think about is if you get buy a house and land package, whether you want to live in it, if you're investing or if you want to live in it, the people that live, in it, whether you're renting or you're owning, want the same thing. You want access to shops and things like that. But the reason these house and land packages are going so cheap is because they're 15-minute drive minimum to Coles and Woolworths and.
Well, they have master plan communities, and then they go, we're building a Woolworths here.
Yeah.
And we're building a park, and we're building, Ritz-Carlton high-rise mask. But heaps of parkland. And they have that plan in place. But if they're not getting the pre-sales and they're not making the profit on the project, that just goes out the window.
So you're saying that there might be projections to put a bank of shops with a Woolworths post office and all that sort of stuff around it. And then if the pre-sales don't happen so the market is not buying those properties in that new estate, those house and land packages, are you saying that the smart guys that own the Woolworths know they're not going to get the ROI from putting a Woolworths there anymore because there's not going to be as many people, so they pull the deal and they don't build a Woolworths there?
It might not be the anchor tenant which will be a Woolworths. They might say, well, we're not building because you don't have enough there.
Yeah.
The plan would always be to have something like that, but it might not be in those 2 years. It might be 10 years down the track.
Which is why the slow growth of those house and land packages is because you slowly need to get people filtering into those areas to warrant having more high-end
that's
amenities and shops.
So they sell you on it too. Buy in here. Look, there's a Woolies going in next year. It's been approved. Yeah, cool. It's been approved. Hasn't started construction.
Yeah. When they start construction, then
Yeah, it's a bit different. So just be mindful of those things with your amenities. You got to get in your car to go anywhere. There's no public transport. It's difficult to get to places. So people tend to not really want to live there. It's more like a family generated sort of location, which is a heavy reliance on cars and vehicles, and then that's also a cost as well. If you've got to drive that extra 10 minutes out, that's 20 minutes each way. You've got to do that every single day. And there's costs involved in that as well. I know I'm getting down to the cents and everything, but
that's not just cents. That's the more valuable resource that you have, which is literally time and time spent in the car. When for example, where I live, the number one thing I like to do is go for a surf. It's close,
across the road.
Yeah. So that's what people are thinking about as well. So what other cons have we got here?
Long build times. So during the lockdown C-19 situation, got to be careful of what I say.
Yes, be careful.
But you saw contract times blow out. So people actually have bought house and land packages, and even not in these environments, there's always delays with construction. You've got so many moving parts. You've got you've got your concreters, you've got your builders, you've got all your other tradies. Then you've got the material supply as well. So it might be a 6-month build, but it might be pushed out to 9 months. And then you're sitting there trying to plan your life, and you're like, well, I'm renting and I'm trying to move in. Completion date is supposed to be this time, and then it gets close to that time, and you're so far away, and they're like, far out. Like, what are we going to do? And then say the owner of the property you're renting from wants to sell it, and then you've got nowhere to live. It's stressful.
I'd love to know the stats on how many house and land packages and build times are actually accurate versus non-accurate, because I mean, I've heard that most people that have bought a house and land package, like, and even my parents bought a brand new unit off the plan, really good option for them, and it wasn't a financial decision because they're downsizing and all the kids are out of home, but through that time they bought this package and they bought that brand unit off the plan, and when it was supposed to be ready, it wasn't ready, so they had to move in with family, and it was just like not an ideal situation for everyone because the property should have been ready. And it's so common. Like, I think everybody listening probably knows somebody that has had that happen to.
Yeah, so just be mindful of that, and obviously go in with a contingency plan with your time, with the build times. The next thing is uncertainty on build quality and, I guess completion, right? So touchy subject, but it's a lot more prevalent now, which is a shame. But like, builders are pushed to such fine margins and
such short time frames.
Yeah, short time frames. So I mean, there's some really good people on like building approval inspectors and things like that on some social media, and like you see some of the stuff that's being built, like it all looks lovely, but once you get up onto the roof and then you start living in it, it hasn't been stress tested from the weather conditions. Like, they build it to what they feel is up to code, and someone might have ticked it off, but
cheapest they can do, but up to code at the same time in the fastest possible time.
Yeah, and
because when you think about a developer, what's their goal? Profit, money, right? So that's exactly what they're thinking about. So why wouldn't they do that?
Yeah, your master builders and your good quality builders, they're the ones that are knocking down the established, work for owner occupiers. Their name means a lot to them, and they don't specialise in all those specky homes that just go up in house and land package regions. But yeah, and it's unfortunate because that's leads into that thing we were talking about earlier, which is if you do have a water leak, that is stressful. But one, it creates mold, and then you got to live through it, and then two, you got to try and find someone to come and fix it. The insurance company, they won't be involved. It's the builder that has that 7-year warranty on it. And then you also got to look at, like, classic example, builders default, and they fail, and they might shut down one company and then go start another company.
Yeah, so you can't hold them responsible because maybe they have finished your building, and when the building has finished and closed, they might have shut down their company. So to hold them responsible to pay out any insurance claims and whatnot and maintenance and stuff, they're just like, no worries, we're on to the next one. They don't care. So that's a risk.
There's going one of the big builder that a friend of mine actually works for. She's a super lovely lady. She doesn't know, I guess maybe what's going on when she was telling me the story, and what they're actually doing is changing the company names. One, they're pushing existing employees to the new company structure. What that does is they become a new employee of that company, so therefore they don't have all the, those entitlements under that new banner, because it's a new job, so you don't have those. If they were to make people redundant, they don't have to pay those high redundancy payouts because essentially they only just started the job 3 months ago. Scary. But they're still trading under, like, it's the same directors, same names. It might just be like a shift from like XYZ Homes Pty Ltd to XYZ Australia Homes Pty Ltd. And then if people come through and they claim and they go, look, the build quality is poor, it's like, that's the old XYZ Homes. We're not associated with them. We've taken over the business, and therefore we're not financially liable to fix those mistakes. It's really scary. So just go in with eyes wide open, make sure that those builders are well established, and there's no change in names or shifting from another builder name to another, and even from the trades point of view as well.
Yeah, that's. I just struggle to see why. I think long term, if you're a developer, why would you not build a really good name for yourself? Like, these guys are thinking so short term. These developers, they want money and they want it fast, but I think they're still thinking short term in terms of, like, if I built, say, Krause Construction, and it was a development firm, I would want to sell the best house and land packages that do actually have high growth in, like, a certain location with close to amenities and stuff like that, with great quality builds, and give awesome maintenance and really good handover and insurances to the owners so they love it. So people purchase it as an investment, and then they want to buy more. So then I have a wait list for the next building I build of people with money that has grown. I've helped them build their wealth through that first house and land package, that they're like, I've got equity in this, I need to go and reinvest it into another one that they do because it's worked so well. Why would developers not do that and put their thinking hat on to build a good quality construction company for the long term? Maybe we do this, Sam, but I urge somebody else to do it because I don't want to go through the hassle of it. But, like, you can get so much more value from working with less people, and you can make so much more money, not just for yourself but everybody else, if you do it the right way as a developer.
Yeah, there's definitely people, like builders and developers out there like that.
Oh, great.
Few and far between. It's just the demand, right? Like, you're like, oh, I built this great quality house. It's here's all our track record, but it's $400,000 for the build. And this person who's struggling and they just want a home, they're looking at the $250,000 build, going, well, I can save 150 grand. I still got a house. It looks kind of the same. And because most people buy property in Australia every 11 years, there's just such a change in the market conditions over time and they forget what it was like. They might not even remember who built the house 11 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's obviously the issue, that reason why people don't do what you want to do. But there's definitely a demand for it, and there's people out there hunting for good quality builders. And there's actually strategies where people go and they just work with a certain builder who they know, like, and trust, and they knock down established old dwellings and build brand new ones.
Yeah.
Strategies within strategies.
Yeah, so there's a few cons there. We've got a few more to get through, though. So that's construction and
a classic one that I've seen, I used to do a lot of valuing of these house and land packages, and you'd see the properties, one would be complete, and it's like, wow, fantastic, that's complete. You're all excited, you get a tenant in there, but then you're leasing it and no one's moving in, you're wondering why. And it's because next door is halfway through construction, and the properties all around it are vacant. No renter really wants to be, moving into a home where you've got the 7 a.m. time frame of someone just putting a drop saw down to wake everyone up. It's a detracting factor from a renter's point of view.
Even a homeowner, like, you ideally want everything.
Yeah, and that leads into the other factor, which is it's a high rental supply. If you're buying into one of these house and land packages locations as an investor, there's going to be other investors in there too. So, and they're all focusing in that market with that same strategy. Then you're going to have a higher rental supply issue, which is you're
going to have a higher supply of places to rent.
Yeah, so
which decreases the amount that people would want to pay for rent because there's so much supply.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So think about those ones too.
Yeah.
And then you go into. This is the thing.
We already talked about, like, developer incentives and guarantees and stuff like that, like not taking on responsibility through changing companies, right?
The next point, which is the final point, is you get these developers going, oh, that's okay, we'll do a rental guarantee. So from the day we finish completion, we will guarantee that you get $650 a week rent out of this property, and they do that to, I guess, objection handle that whole issue.
Yeah.
When someone's offering you an incentive to do something, think about why. 9 times out of 10, the incentive's there for their best interest, not yours. So just like most places that do have those rental incentives, historically have performed really poorly.
So those rental incentives, you're just giving say they guarantee that you'll get $600 a week rent. If you don't, what happens then?
They pay it.
Or they pay the rent.
Yeah, okay. So for the first 12 months, we'll pay $600 a week rent if you don't have a tenant in there.
So then it's worth thinking about, all right, after 12 months, they might have to pay out 600, but the market value of it is $500 a week. And then you have to go down from $600 a week rent to $500 a week rent, which may not actually make if it is a property investment, it may not actually make your property an actual, what do you call it, like positively geared.
Yeah. That extra $100 a week could be that tipping point into your stress levels to you put your hands up and go, stuff it, sell it. And then you go sell it and you realize, hang on, this hasn't really grown much in value over the last 12 months. And after everything I've gone through, I now need to sell this thing. And that's how the negative equity starts to happen. That's a big issue, is that people are, they're forced sellers and they've got a $500,000 debt on this property. All the equity that they put into it, either through the grants, cash they put in, has been eroded. And now they've basically just gone through that whole experience, haven't made any money, and now back into where they were probably 3 years ago, which is renting.